record on the crowd. Okay, we're recording. Yes. Okay. So, guys,
where were they in Virginia?
Cindy, do you know Anaconda was there for a lecture?
Where in Virginia?
I forget what the name. I forget where they went. They told me, but I forget.
Okay.
Yeah. So I just found that out too. So, but they're gonna come on next week, not next week, in 2 weeks, and we'll get them to share what information they have. So we're going to start now. You have to. I just want to just reiterate for everybody. You know, this is really a new topic, a new science. So these first 3-4 chapters are all about the new language for all the elements that are at play in this new science, in this new material. So it's a little slow because we have to get familiar with all these different elements that are coming to play in this new science. So that's why it goes a little bit slow. But once we understand these things that we discussed in these first 3-4 chapters, we'll review them to make sure everybody has them. Then we can build the much more interesting things that come after, like time travel and magical operations that allow us to, affect what's happening here. But we need the building blocks in order to be able to then discuss those and understand why those things are so possible. And sometimes they're not, they don't look like, they're not magical anymore. You realize it's very logical because now we have the information. A very, interesting physicist always says, magic is just physics we haven't understood yet. So this information that we are building that can be a bit complex at the beginning is really valuable as we go into the more fun topics later on. Okay, so the first one that we have to, the first chapter, which is the myth of the mirror, sets the stage of, history or story of creation. Okay, this is according to the Damanhur philosophy. This is their story of creation. And I think everybody is online with that. And then I'm going to ask the questions. And Chris, did you read it? So you read a little bit. So I'm just going to ask the questions, and you guys can try answering them, and we'll go through them. And this is just to review what is the story of creation according to the Damanhur philosophy, or what's stated in this book, so that everybody.
Question?
Yes.
Okay, so I know Chris has read the book, correct, Chris?
I've read it twice.
Twice, yeah. So, and I don't know who is the other person on the call besides Cindy.
It's Eva. Eva was with us last week.
Okay. Cindy, were you with us the last time?
Yes.
Yeah.
So why are we again going over the myth of the mirror? I think we all have been through that already. I'm not sure why we're going back.
Oh, because did I send you these questions to answer? Did I send you in the Word document some questions just to go through?
No, I didn't get any Word document. I must be not in your group. I just got the who is responsible for which law that we were going to go over, even though we went over them last time. And then we're going to move forward. I haven't received any.
Oh, okay.
I because in my group here that we've discussed the myth of the mirror. We've discussed already once or twice.
Okay, so I thought I had sent you guys all with my email a little Word document with like 8 questions.
Huh.
I don't think I got it.
Okay, so maybe I didn't. Okay.
I didn't get anything.
Okay,
like
so I'm just going to go through them quickly, guys. They're not complicated. It's just to see if you remember the stuff that we did. It's really just, okay?
Well, is it possible to send it again, just to have a video?
Yes. I'll send it to you. So the first question is simple. How many primeval divinities are in the real?
9.
Okay.
Okay, what do you mean? That's fun.
It's a little
quiz.
Eva, are you with me?
I'm listening.
Okay. Cindy, are you with us? You
Yeah, I was looking for my email. Now I'm back. Okay.
Okay. Okay. How many primeval divinities came before us?
3,
Yay. And which one are we?
4.
Is this Chris firing responses?
What?
Is it Chris firing the responses?
No, I think that's Cindy.
No,
But Chris, you're with us, right?
Oh, yeah.
Okay, you got it. Okay, so it's just to get everybody on the same page. Okay. How long have we been here? How long is our fourth primordial human divinity been here?
Too
How
long,
many?
in my opinion.
30 million years.
30 million.
30 million. What is the mission of all these divinities, these 9 primordial divinities that are coming here? What is the mission?
to divinize the matter.
Fantastic. Okay. And if we fail, what happens in the allotted amount of time?
We lose our turn.
And we go back, and everything that's belonging to what we've created goes poof, and the next one comes. Everybody okay with that?
Yeah.
Mhm.
Well, doesn't sound like a good plan, but what do we do?
We continue to do.
Can I ask you a question?
Yes.
So if we go poof
Yes.
and we're in the middle of all this reincarnation in God, that all just disappears. We're nothing.
Yeah. It's bye-bye.
Like the dinosaurs.
Yeah.
Now, okay, I want to add this element in, but I promise you we're going to elaborate it. I promise you. My understanding is that the archangels are essences of
The third divinity.
the primordial divinities that didn't succeed. But because these forms had reached a certain level of complexity, this level of justice, if you want, they got to stay in matter, but they can't evolve anymore. So I just wanted to put that out there so that you know that these concepts we are talking about are not just fun things to throw around. There is a real distilling of information that's going to come as we move further along with the book. So when you talked about what happens, yeah, we all go poof, and everything, you know, that was, you know, that has reached a certain level of complexity, if it hasn't reached that level of justice, it really disappears. It goes away. So that's why I think the stakes are really high to get us, you know, to do this evolution thing. We have to, you know, do it not just for fun.
Yeah.
It's like, okay. Now, the myth of the mirror, you guys know this is one of the ways that these big, huge energies, primordial divinities enter matter. They have to divide. They have to split into a lot of million pieces. And that's where all the problems come up, where they lose their memory. And then it has to start a little bit from scratch. It cannot get help from the real. It really is on its own. And so it's just to review that so that we hold that.
But they only lost their memory in time, in the real, because they're still part of the real. Their memory is intact.
Right. So it is living in 2 different, you know, experiences, in the real with full memory, and then disintegrated here, because it never splits from itself. So yes, Cindy, Eva, you okay with that?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that makes sense. Okay. And then what is the divine spark? The divine spark is this
Part of the
mirror. Sorry, Eva, Vesla, go ahead.
I was going to say, I don't know. I think you have a better explanation. I was going to say the part of the divine mirror that is in each one of us.
Perfect. That's it. You know, the divine spark is that. And is it different than the soul? Yes, the divine spark in us attracts the construction of the soul that happens over time here in matter. And we're going to discuss that later on. But that's important to make the distinction. The divine spark is in all the things that are in the material world. It's in everything. It's in the rock. It's in the, it's in everything, you know. But not everything is complex enough to host the soul. So that's the distinction. You guys got that? That's important.
Mm-hmm.
Chris?
Yes, yes, yes.
That makes sense. Okay. And we'll talk about, so the divine spark is in everything, but the soul necessary is only in the forms that have reached a certain level of complexity. And then what is the difference between the primeval divinities and then the divinities that we talk about that are man-made? You guys, that's an important distinction. The primordial divinities come from the real, and then we have these divinities that as men wake up to their divine spark, they realize that they have this essence inside of themselves, and that in one lifetime they're not going to be able to achieve this bridging with the real. So they create divine divinities, containers, to hold all of their life experiences and the experiences of their cultures and their civilizations. So there's primordial divinities, and then there are these man-made divinities. They're different. You guys are okay with that? You got it?
Yep.
Yeah. Eva?
Yep. Mm-hmm.
Okay.
The man-made ones are the ones that people worship, like the Hindus and stuff, right?
Yes.
Like Ganesh and stuff.
Yeah. Yeah, all of those.
And they have their origin in thought. Human
Yes.
thought.
Yes, they're created by thoughts. Yes. And thoughts, and we're going to talk about this more and more. We hear it everywhere in our culture. Be careful what you think. You know, Joe Dispenza with his movement, you know, about materializing what you think. Thought is one of the most potent magical tools that we have to imprint the physical world. We'll see that over and over again. Okay. Thoughts and thoughts with the right emotions are the most potent things to impact matter. So divinities are created from those points, from that beginning. Yes. Okay. And in is the soul limit? Oh, is the soul limited to human forms?
No.
Okay, I think there's about 4 forms that we know of, but I get the sense that, I mean, this book was written 15 years ago. I think there's more forms now, because remember, as long as the forms keep evolving, then they can call in, you know, the more complex they become. So I think we might have more forms, but I think 4 on our planet, but that, and also in the universe, there's many other civilizations out there that have the divine, the human soul as well. Okay, that takes care of the myth of the mirror. Bravo. Yes, 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 yes.
What by forms?
Good. I
What
didn't
kind
know
of
about
forms
the-
are they?
Helpful.
Wait. Eva, what were you saying?
The forms. What kind of forms are they?
The
What do you
forms
mean by
are
forms?
the ones that I've heard about, and Vesela, Chris, if you've heard of more, or Cindy, us, the humans, the dolphins, the elephants,
Oh yes, okay.
and the whales.
Elephants and whales.
Yeah.
Turtles,
Yes.
turtles and some monkeys, like
Gorillas, turtles. I have a question when it comes to the plant world, because but we won't put that in there now, but that's something, you know, that I think there is another level of
Yeah,
evolution.
like Wachuma and what is it called? Wachuma and, you know, the ones that open your heart.
Oh, the plants.
Yeah, medicine plants.
Oh, the medicine plants. Ayahuasca and all of
they
those.
have a consciousness, definitely, because the South American culture goes into them a big time.
Yeah,
the cactus thing, Wachuma and ayahuasca.
Yeah, I'm going to put, you know, one of the things also, I'm going to invite all of you, please, 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 when we do this, put a little notepad beside you, and if there's questions that we can't answer with ourselves, I can put these to Coyote, and maybe we'll get him on a call one day, or at least I can ask him. And
Oh,
then,
that's awesome.
yeah,
No
no.
questions, but I don't have a person to answer them, so that will be good.
Yeah. So we can put them, and Vesla, you can try, when we go through the topics, you can try putting them in the space, and if we can't do it, then what we'll do is we'll write them down, and then we can do that. Okay, so now, so that's the, if you want, that's the story of creation we're working with. Okay, and now we're going to build everything else around that, and Cosmogenesis is where we start to use the building blocks. So in these next 2-3 chapters, we're going to have a lot of concepts. Just don't get, we're going to try to go through them as much as we can. Don't get lost in the names and all that. We'll do our best at going through them. And we just, it's just a new language for a new topic. So let's start with some notes. So what we know, and I'll just go through a few of the notes that I have. So we know that the real is the absolute, and that matter is the virtual reality of this absolute. And it's being created to give these primordial divinities an opportunity to expand. And in order to do that, they created this, they came to have an experience here in the matter. And in this chapters that follow, we're going to explain how that happens. How does the real, we have the myth, but how does it now translate into creating everything that we see here? Yes, Eva. Eva, are you there?
Yeah.
Did you want to say something?
No.
No. Okay. So we'll just go through some of the points. So the real exists, and it's the absolute, and matter is the virtual reality where things are going to start to be played out. And matter is really made up of space, and what starts to create the objects and everything in it is time, the direction of time. And we'll talk about how that happens. So
can you say that one more time?
So matter,
yeah,
is a combination of time and space. Space, and then time, as time enters matter, the time sphere starts to interact with the space, then all of a sudden you start to have the formation of matter.
Where did you get that from? This is a new interpretation. I haven't gotten a sense from reading the book.
If you look at page 27,
yeah.
So page 27.
Yeah. Okay.
It's somewhere down here.
This is the reality, the seat of the absolute.
From the beginning, material universe and the sense-suited perception. It is to understand the nature of real. But matter is actually sustained thanks to real, which represents its own the real also takes the great importance of
yeah, because the matter it's actually formed by the attractors, so not by time. So
well,
the attractors that come from the real attract.
Yes, keep going.
I'm not actually even sure what they attract, but they attract something that turns into matter.
No. Okay, so yes, but that because what we are trying to define now is you've got matter in this experience, and there's all these elements at play. And where do you start to define them? But they're all ingredients that go into making the matter. So I'm just trying to find this exact.
I know, you know, the next page, well, it says that what are the last paragraph here is the process by which matter is formed is part of a complex system consisting of different interacting elements. And then on the next page, they do list time as one of them. So the attractors or the flow of the real into matter, primordial energy called primeval laws, which we were talking last time, time in its primordial state, which we call the time sphere. So you're right. Superior intelligence or the primeval divinities, other forces of a nature that is not yet completely clear, the demiurges, and then the elements that belong to matter itself.
And we'll go through all of them.
Yeah,
We're going to go through.
It's complex. It's not just matter forms, time forms matter, but time is part of it.
Time is part of it, and you'll see that it's because of, once we talk about the demiurges, and what the demiurges do in the field of matter is create a time direction. That's when it all starts to happen.
Yeah.
So in these statements, it's a little bit more simplified, but matter, which is made up of time and space, is sustained by the real. I thought it was. Let's keep going through it.
Yeah, let's keep going. I'm sorry.
Okay. The most important thing is, matter needs to be created now, and how does it happen? And so
it also needs to be differentiated, right?
It is differentiated just by its nature, because as we will see, the primordial divinities cannot enter in the state that they are in the real. They need to reorganize and be different in order to have an experience in matter. And the laws that govern this it does not allow them to enter. So yes, it is the only way to have an experience here, that this has to happen. So just stay with me, and then we'll put all these pieces together. Okay. So I just wanted to set the stage. Okay. So the real is the absolute truth. What's happening here is all virtual. So think of us creating a virtual game. It's a lot of pieces, a lot of little bits of information, and this is what we're building. The real stays present in this creation through these attractors, and we will discuss how that happens and what their purpose is. The real starts to show us, okay, and the real is also what, we'll leave this, but this real is also what we are going to have to return back to. So its presence here in what it can, through its emissaries, these attractors, are going to also help guide us as we start to become more complex in our matter, and we develop more complexity. We're going to, call in this divine spark. We're going to ignite to the divine spark, and we're going to start to remember this divine nature of ourselves. And this is all a process. So the real cannot interfere, but it does permeate all of matter through these experiences, these emissaries, the attractors that we're going to talk about, and through the fact of once the divine spark in us is ignited, we're going to remember some things about our essence. Okay. Are you guys okay with this? I know it's a little bit abstract, but we'll focalize it a little bit more. So now we need to say, okay, great, we've got this framework. How does matter happen? So there are 6 elements that you guys all have the book with you.
I don't.
Okay. I'll mention them out loud. On page 28, these are the 6 elements. Like I said, we're creating this virtual reality, and on the outside are all these elements. When I made the comment of space and time was a simplification of these 6 elements, if you want. But we've got this field, and now matter has to start to be put together. And we're given to start building this concept, the 6 elements, okay? If you guys go to the top of page 28, one of the elements is the attractors. These are all the ingredients that are going to create matter here in this world that we are playing, in this virtual reality game. You guys are with me?
Mm-hmm.
Vesela, Chris?
Yeah.
You okay?
Yeah.
Yeah, I might be using different analogies, but just to bring the ideas. So we've got the attractors. I'm going to first name them and then we'll go and put names to them. Ava, maybe you just write them down, you know?
Yeah.
So the first one is the attractors. The second one is the primordial energy, which become in matter the laws, the derivative laws, okay? Which we're going to talk a lot about. Time in its primordial state, which is the time sphere. That's another element that's important to create matter. The superior intelligence or primeval divinities. So it's just called superior intelligence. And other forces of natures, you know, this is the fifth element, and they're called other forces of nature. They don't have identified all of them. Like I said, this was written 15 years ago. It's possible there's more defined now. And one of them, which we're going to talk about, because it's fundamental in showing you how matter is created, is the demiurges. Okay, this one is identified, it's called the demiurges. It's another ingredient.
Demi what?
Demiurges?
Demiurge?
Yeah.
It's like, I think it means like a...
It's a code. It's a coded number.
Demiurges?
The demiurges is a coded number given to the ideas. We'll go through it. We'll go through it, Vessela.
Okay.
What was your idea? What would you?
No, I actually haven't read recently more about the demiurges, so I'm trying to remember, but
we'll go through it. We'll go through it, and then you'll remember.
Yeah, I just know that I thought that maybe the word means like a semi-gods or something like this. It's like,
oh, no, this is actually a word to describe this process of creating matter. It's on its own. It's part of this physics lingo.
Yeah, so it's not because in from Greek it means like something like half god, but that's not what it means.
No. It's part of this, the language of this virtual reality world we're creating here. Chris, you're okay with all this?
Yes.
Okay. I know it can be different, but I'm trying just to simplify and create a story so that we're held with the information. Okay, so we've got matter that's going to have to be built. We've got the real that's sending these attractors in here. We'll understand how all that works. And now we have these 6 elements that we're going to have to put together to create something. And now we're going to go through them and explain each one. They're not going to be in order. They jump around a lot. But I think I'm just going to give a quick the definition of the attractors, which was the first one I mentioned. So the attractors are what Vessela was saying. They are, because the real can't enter matter, it uses these emissaries. They're neutral, they're called attractors, and they go from the real down to matter and then back up. Okay, that's all you need to know for now, and then we'll get into the details of exactly how they work. The laws, these are where these 9 primordial divinities live. There's also these 8 laws that are there, and they are also coming into the world of matter to have to create the rules of engagement. Some of the rules, the laws that govern also the world of matter, and these we're going to talk about. There are 8 derivative laws: synchronicity, chaos. You've heard them before. Guys, you're with me? I haven't lost you?
No.
Eva, you're good?
Yeah, okay, listening.
Okay. So that's the second one, the laws. Then we have the time sphere. The time sphere is a big topic all on itself, but just to know that the time sphere is one of the elements that creates matter. And then we have this primeval, the superior intelligence, which is, my understanding is that is the divine spark. But let's just leave it because we'll touch on it later. And then we have the demiurges. That's going to be an important topic because it's going to explain how matter starts to be shaped to actually come to existence. And then we're going to talk about the element that belongs to matter itself. And this is where we're going to touch on nothingness as well, which is the force opposing all this evolution that is here. Okay, those are the 6 elements. They have depth to all of them, but at least they're the 6 ingredients that we're going to be playing with. You're all good?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, fantastic. One of the notes that was on, I think on page 28, after these, they state these 6 elements. They say, the origin of matter cannot be pinpointed in time, because when the above 6 elements, these elements we just mentioned, start to interact, it was happening in a realm before time was there. So it's almost, this is pre-matter, okay? We've got this idea they're gonna have an experience here and all of this elements are, you know, being shaken around before anything sticks. So just to give you, and there are 2 theories on how, you know, why did this happen? Why did these forces, why did these divinities decide to come and have this experience? What was the catalyzing moment? What was the Big Bang? And these are the 2 theories that were, you know, expressed in the book, and that I think is on page 29. But I'm going to simplify them for you, summarize them for you. The 2 theories on how matter became, you know, started, and why this all started for the primordial divinities, why they started to do this game here in matter. One of them says that the primordial, those laws that are in the real, the 8 primordial laws, that we are going to learn about them as the derivative laws, collided. And in one of these collisions, there was this opportunity, and so they took it. It's a very metaphorical concept, but basically, you know, these forces collided and there was an opportunity that, you know, this opportunity to create this experience came about. Or the other theory is that the real collided with the time sphere, and that they were not collided, but you know, they met and this decided to happen. So this to me today is not clear. I think in the courses in Damanhur, I've heard more the first one, where they say there was these 2 energies, you know, the laws that collided, because basically they're energy forms. And it was such a big energy, and they didn't meet all the time, but in this one moment, they decided to open the door and have this experience. So it's a bit of a mythological story, but it is part of this, and it's a good thing to just hold in our minds. So when we're looking at all this, is like, okay, why are we doing all this? So there we go. So from this encounter, matter, so all of this begins. Okay, so the next thing we have to look at is, okay, so now, and the how, so the next thing that is talked about in the book is the demiurges and the world. Okay, so now how does matter starts? Okay, are you guys ready?
Mm-hmm.
Are you following me, or have I lost you? Any questions?
We're following you.
We following me? Okay. Va bene. So to go to how matter starts to be built or constructed, we're going to go to page 30, and I've sort of summarized the step-by-steps of how it sort of starts. So we have to go, so this is on page 30, and I'm just going to give you the summary points. When the real gets divided in the myth of the mirror into all these partial aspects, it creates a new dimension, and this new dimension is called the world of ideas. Okay, so just hold that as a piece of information. Now, in the world of ideas, the entire potential is possible of the idea, okay? Because it's virtual, nothing is created yet. So then, at that moment, when the real breaks and creates this new dimension, this dimension that is called the world of ideas, and this concept is important because it builds everything else on it. So you have to feel comfortable, and if you want to debate it, this is the time. It is the real, it's the fragmentation of the real that creates this world of ideas, okay? So you've got the container, and now, because there's no time, right? It's all virtual, nothing is material from this, it's just an idea, it's a virtual concept. So now the demiurge, which is one of these elements that they talk about, becomes important because the role of this demiurge in the spiritual physics that we have in front of us, and it's one of the elements, its job is to take the idea from the world of ideas, this dimension, and bring it to the world of matter. Start to bring it, because let me give it to you in a different way. Okay, so let me break it down a little. Are you guys okay with this? Do you remember reading this a little bit? Do you have an?
Yeah, I remember reading it. That
Okay.
isn't to say that I understand it.
Okay. Cindy, are you with me?
Yeah.
Vesla, you with me?
Yeah, I'm just remembering about demiurges. I had forgotten because I didn't read it recently.
Okay. So the demiurges, it's an element where this is how it works. The demiurge takes this, takes the idea that is coming from this new dimension, the world of ideas, and assigns a numerical value to it because that's what it does. So it assigns a numerical code to the idea, and this code in the world of idea then gets brought in and gets perceived by living forms. Once it's perceived, this code, this idea goes back into the world of ideas. And these perceptions that are imposed on it by all the different forms nourish it and start to give it density. And this was the little diagram that Duncan showed us, where he's got the world of ideas, he's got this demiurge that puts a little code on the world of idea, prances it out, and has forms, living forms perceive this idea. And because all the different forms all have different perceptions, this nourishes this idea that the demiurge is carrying, and it brings it back into the world of idea denser and now ready to actually become something material. And by doing that process, then time becomes possible. Time gets imposed on it. So I'll just take you through the steps. So the demiurge applies a numerical code to the idea. This code comes into form and gets perceived by all the living forms. This perception is then sent back to the world of ideas and finishes the cycle. The idea is preserved in the world of idea only if enough different species perceive it. Otherwise, it cannot exist. Having many species perceive the universe is fundamental in having the universe exist. This cycle creates physical matter. And now that it's done, now that there's something physical, time can take a direction. And so that's when matter starts to be actually shaped. So the number the demiurge uses to define a specific idea so that it can participate in a time direction and become a physical object is understandable and usable. Okay, so, okay, that's another little point. But, okay, first, let me ask you guys, did I lose you?
No.
No,
Cindy?
but if the idea
Yes.
is not grasped or perceived by many species enough to become real, then that doesn't mean the idea dies. It just lingers still in the realm of ideas.
That's a good question. That's a good question. My understanding is it does not exist. It cannot exist, but maybe it is still in the virtual, but it cannot exist. So I don't know if it will stay in the virtual, because it says the idea is preserved in the world of ideas if enough. No, it's preserved in the world of ideas. So no, bye-bye. It goes by. That's why Damanhur is so diligent at this printing all these different species in the temple. That's why it's so important we maintain the diversity that we have, because if we lose too many species, we're going to lose the capacity to manifest things in the universe. So all of us, yeah, no, that's why, you know, in the temple, every form, everything that they draw in there is very precise. It's to maintain the diversity that we have on the planet. It's very, no, because it is in the, I think it's in page 32. The idea object is preserved in the world of idea if enough different species perceive it. Otherwise, it cannot exist. So it's in the world of idea, it cannot exist. But you know what, Chris, can you make a question of that?
I mean, because we are in time as people, we are in time and we are constantly evolving, then it would seem to make sense to me that an idea would go back into the world of ideas and wait again to see if we will perceive it later on.
No, because this is different. This
okay.
is because, yes, we are evolving. But
Can I say something?
Yes, did you not hear her?
Yeah, I was just, there is this paragraph on the page 32 that it says exactly, says what you're saying, Alessandra, that it says, but this archetypal idea would not be preserved in the world of ideas if it weren't perceived by a significant number of different species. So if it's not perceived, it will not be preserved in the world of ideas. So it's the very clear answer. I don't know that we need to ask anybody. It's
okay.
But I want to elaborate this because Vesla, this is important.
Yeah.
You know, so Chris.
It's important. It says that without variety.
No, but listen to this.
Yeah.
I know your mind works and you are clear and you have to go, but I'm going to stop you just because this is
just saying that to me that's a clear answer, and
it's a clear answer, but it opens up this other opportunity to discuss something really important. So complexity is not necessarily the cure for evolution, because it has to be all together. Because if you have certain forms that become more and more complex, great, but you don't have the diversity of the forms to perceive the universe, and those ideas cannot be preserved, I don't know what happens to complexity. You know what I'm saying?
Can you define complexity?
Yes, complexity is okay, we're gonna go deeper into it when we go to the
This was going to be my law to explain, but
oh, okay.
I love complexity, and I don't think I can. I need to be looking at the basic. I need to read paragraphs from the
book.
It's so difficult to even like paraphrase paragraphs from the book because they have such a specific language that I don't know. I'm not sure if I can find other words to replace them. So it's basically, I'm quite impressed by your interpretations, Alessandra, because they're kind of using some words a little more loosely and freely, and so there is a little bit more freedom. The book makes sense, but I need to stick to the exact wording that it said. Otherwise, I'm not sure if it's any more accurate and if it makes sense. But anyway, I was going to try to explain the complexity when we were getting to the law. So I don't know if you want to go into this now or just
no. Let's stay in sequence, because I think it deserves to come with the derivative laws, because they're very important.
Well, we're almost there, I think, in the laws.
We're almost there, but
we went over this. I'm not sure why we keep repeating. You know, part of it is that some of the people are not here. But I really want to get to further, you know, this is like just been such a long time since I've been waiting to have discussions.
We'll get there. But Cindy, just to simplify, complexity is another very simplified version of evolution. Okay, evolving, how something evolves from a more simple state to a more, a more complete, complex state with more information. Is that just to simplify it?
Can I give a simple definition from the book?
Yes.
It says that the synchronicity selects the appropriate events at the right time, and synchronicity being one of the laws. But if we, let's say that impersonally, that the appropriate events are selected at the right times and places to ensure that complexity is produced in the universe, meaning, okay, so the complexity results from the relationship, the interaction between forms, as well as from the exchange of information, both from the perspective of quantity and quality. Anyway, as I'm reading this, I understand that it's not as simple to just define a good one.
Because in your mind, you get it, but it's hard to put it out.
No, and I think that the word that you use of evolution might be actually a really good word to use. Like complexity is the law that deals with how evolution happens.
Yeah, how we increase our capacity to gather more and more information. It's like a chip. You know, we used to have rooms of computers, and now with like a little chip has the same information. Right. So ladies.
How long are we going tonight? Are we going until 7:30?
Yeah, 7:30. Yeah, no, 7:30.
I mean, like not 8:30. I mean, like your time.
Then let's get, don't worry. We'll get through the stuff. We'll get through the stuff. I can do another hour. It's 8 now, so 9 o'clock, 7:30, depending. Is everybody okay? Are you tired? You want a break? You okay?
I think for me, an hour and a half would be plenty.
Is that okay, everybody?
I was, but you guys can continue. I think that after an hour and a half, I might.
Okay.
So we've been meeting for an hour now, so we have half an hour.
Okay, we have a half an hour. Okay, so let's just recap then. We have talked about these 10, 11, the demiurges. Okay, the importance of the demiurges that Chris, is it complexity? No, this is different. This is the forms. Different forms nourish the world of ideas. So it's not with, of course, if the forms are more complex, the better it is, but it's the number of forms. So is that clear?
Yes.
Okay, good. Okay, we got that. Okay, now we get to play. So we talked about, one of the 6 elements of matter is the demiurges. We just talked about that. You guys have an idea of how matter starts to be built. The demiurges puts a code, it gets perceived by forms, and boom, as soon as it's perceived by enough forms, it becomes concrete, and then time starts to become part of it, and it starts to create matter. Foundation is done. Are we good?
Yes.
I know it's butchered, but it's, Chris, are you with us?
Yes.
Eva?
Yeah.
Okay, beautiful. And now we get to put one of the other elements that we talked about, these the laws, the 8 derivative laws, okay? So now we really have to go into depth of these laws, because they are creating the pressure points on matter, okay? They are part of the real. They are in the real. They are these energetic forces. When they translate here in the matter, they are transformed, they change, but they have an impact on how matter can move and operate. Okay, so we're going to talk about the laws. This is element number 2, or possibly 3, because we talked about the demiurges with the time sphere. So there's 2 elements there. This is the 3rd. It's a big element. It's called the derivative laws. And we'll go through them. Some of us had some that we were going to discuss. So let me just...
can I ask something?
Yes.
It sounds like you have access to Coyote, so I think one question that I have from this chapter before we start with the actual laws is on page 33 about the time matrices.
Yeah.
That is a highly let's say like very difficult concept, I guess, for me to understand. And also I have written myself a question from a long time ago. What are some of the time matrices? Like, what are examples for time matrices?
Okay, my understanding, because the book doesn't give us the definitions, but
no, a lot of concepts are just mentioned and they're not explained any further.
They're not explained. So let me give you the notes that I have that maybe can help you. Or relate to each other according to a time direction and with a cause and effect relationship. Okay, so first I want to just make this summary of the stuff we just finished, okay?
Yeah.
Time is now, matter is now created in a field where ideas can relate to each other according to a time direction and with a cause and effect relationship. In this field, the 8 laws now begin to operate in a predetermined pattern, a formula. So time matrices, Vesela, are these predetermined patterns. They're formulas. And this is all we are given. They know, according to this book, 15 years ago, they had the formulas for some of them. Mm-hmm. For some of these 8 laws. So think of them as laws that probably...
Are you talking about the time matrices?
Yes, that's what time matrices are.
So are you saying that there are 8 matrices as many as their laws or not?
Yes, yes. Oh. Each law has its own time matrix.
I didn't realize that. Are you sure about that?
Yeah. Each law, and I'm going to tell you.
Maybe it's in the book here.
Yeah. From a magical perspective, the time matrices are of great importance, as they are a tool which magicians can use to manipulate the laws in order to produce a specific effect within the world of matter. Defining the matrices has been considered one of the highest levels of study and research throughout history of magic, and it still continues to this day, as not all the matrices have been defined. Now let us.
I'm not sure that there is only 8. I think that there's.
Yeah. You know what? Yeah, our universe generated from enough. Let me just say, if I want to. Matter, as far as the laws are concerned, represent a field where ideas can relate with each other according to a time direction. Okay.
Could you ask Coyote to give some examples, and if he could, would?
Yeah, hold on. We could define it as an... Okay, if we want to use mathematical language, we could define it as an... So each of these laws has an algorithm, a very complex, repetitive formula. Each of these laws has an algorithm, and this is on page 32 at the bottom. If the last paragraph on page 32, Eva, I'm going to read it because I know you don't have the book. Chris, do you have the book?
Okay.
Yeah, I have it here.
So if we want to use mathematical language, we could define it as an algorithm, a very complex, repetitive formula. In the language of spiritual physics, these particular codes are called time matrices, and each derivative law has its
own time matrix. Yeah, you're right.
That codifies its action in time. Okay.
Yeah, you're right. I have underlined that, but I have so each law has its own time matrix. Now it's not clear whether those are the only time matrices that are corresponding to each of the law, but you're right. Each law has its own matrix.
Bella, will you write that down as a question for me to ask him?
Yeah, how would, like an email, or how would you?
Yeah, send it to me in an email, guys. All of these questions that you have, we can review them before the end of the call, and then send them to me, and I will try to answer.
I will. Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, no, because this helps us. But from this, it sounds like it's each one has an algorithm. So these are just, so you've got these 8 derivative laws. They are impacting matter, and they have an algorithm to them. It's called a time matrix. If you know the time matrix, you can use it in magic to affect matter.
Yeah, so this obviously is like really high level of, as they say here, highest level of study and research of in magic.
Yeah, but I think
dealing with those time matrices. They say that, and I was like, oh my God, that is so interesting.
But you know, I'm going to tell you, once we start to understand all of these elements, we're going to be able to figure out a lot of this stuff, because this is the language. There's no other language. This is it. And once we have it and we're comfortable with it, we're going to be able to deal with a lot of more advanced concepts as we go. So it's important.
Let's hope so.
Yeah. Va bene. So just to note, we have 8 derivative laws. They have an algorithm. They're called time matrices. They know how to operate some of them. They don't know all of them. And all of the laws, there's not one that's more important. All of the laws have the same value. They're all important, and they all have the same impact on matter. That's what we need to know. And now we're going to go into the details of each one. Is everybody good?
Yeah.
Okay. Eva, you good? Okay.
Yeah.
So the fall of mutual events. So I'm going to give you just a summary version of what I did from the pages 33 to 35. And then I'm going to just simplify it in my own words. This is the first derivative law. Remember, it's got its own algorithm, its own time matrix. We don't know what that is. They don't give us that, but they tell us how they work. So the fall of mutual events. So the fall of mutual events is, think of a constant rain that is falling, and on all the forms, constantly falling. And this rain is this fall of mutual events. These events are pure energy, and they are falling constantly. And everything they touch in the form creates an event, creates a physical event. But as it's falling, it's neutral and it's full of potential. And as it's falling, there are these divine forces that are in the fields. And these rains, as they fall, they get colored by these divine forces. And they take on a resonance with these divine forces that are in the field. So when they're touching a form, they imprint it also with this resonance, okay? And my understanding, because I called Coyote for this, I'm like, is there a difference between a neutral event and a physical event? He goes, well, no, they're completely different, but it's part of the same. The neutral event doesn't have a charge to it. It's just pure energy.
Can I say something? Can I say something?
Yes.
My understanding is that the physical events that you're talking about are the saturated events. The events that have actually happened. The rain, the fall is neutral events. They're neutral, which is very important because like certain areas, like they explain later, are a lot richer on neutral events than others. So areas where there's a higher percentage of neutral events, there is more possibility for things to happen, for change to happen, for evolution to happen. So the physical events will be the saturated events, but the neutral events are, as they fall, they're not saturated yet. They become saturated.
Right, they become, but they cannot be used again. They cannot be used. They just become
the saturated events. But when they're neutral, they're unsaturated and therefore their potential for being used.
No, not once they're down, not once they fall, only as they're falling. Once they're down, they cannot get.
No, that's very, this is something that actually I've asked Crotto, that there's places that are, that events have fallen, they haven't been saturated, and those are actually things, you know, that's what they use when, you know, they talk later about time travel, but you know, when, for time travel, they have to find unsaturated events that already have fallen. This is my understanding. Maybe we can look, this is based on actually conversations in the class with Crotto.
Crocodile. Okay, so
We get a working definition of an event.
an event is anything that happens here is an event.
It's an
So
action.
It's not it's more elaborate than that. So my question to him today is like, hold on a second. So what's the difference, you know, between me running or me picking up the phone? He goes, no, a neutral event is, just by its definition, these potential energy raindrops.
Energy, yeah.
It's the potential energy raindrop.
That can trigger a material event.
That's it. They can trigger the material event.
They can, but they don't always trigger material event. And when they don't, they're still in the form of unsaturated.
Okay, well, this is another piece. Thank you for sharing that, Vesta, because that's not in the book, and I would say that was not clear to me, but I never asked the question. But this is important, guys. So, Chris, the neutral event is just in its energetic form, in its energetic form as it's falling, and it's being colored by the divine forces. Once it hits a form, it's a physical event. And anything that happens here is a neutral event that has become a physical event. So it's no longer neutral because it's in motion, because it's been transformed by the form it has hit and the action it has taken. Does that?
Okay, can I read something again from page 34? Just arguing my case, what I was saying, that every event when it comes into contact, this is in the middle of page 34. Every event when it comes into contact with our material plane has two possible chances. Number one, the event can manifest, at which point it will be called a saturated event. It should be noted that saturated events are the events that define the fabric of time. Or two, the event does not manifest, at which point it is contained in a form of unexpressed potential. So that's what I'm telling you, that, you know, there are certain events, neutral events that fall and are not manifest, they're unsaturated. So those are known as unsaturated events, and normally there is always a certain quantity of unsaturated events on the material plane, because forms cannot always or completely use all the events that they have at their disposal for every fraction of time. So it's very clear that when those neutral events fall, they can either get saturated and they're used up, or they can remain in the form of unsaturated, and then they're available for future saturation, so to speak, for future use.
Future use.
So it's Chris, that part is very clear. So, and I think it's very important, because Damanhur, for example, I mean, of course, is one of those places where there is higher rain of neutral events. And it's not just Damanhur, basically the areas around the synchronic lines, in particular the crossing of synchronic lines. But this is important. So the neutral events fall, they can be saturated when they're used, or unsaturated. It's really important to have access to those, because that's how things could be changed if there is potential, or there is supply of unsaturated events that can be used and change the fabric of time. So that to me is I'm so excited about. Time is a really exciting topic for me, and the timeline and changing the timeline, and you know, I think that the saturated or unsaturated events play part in that. So anyway, I think that's very clear in the book, and I've asked and had conversations with Crotto about this. So
okay, so Chris,
like I have a more clarity than that.
So Chris, to answer your is it an action? It's everything that happens here. Once it touches the form, the neutral event is no longer neutral. It's changed, and it becomes a physical event and an action or a movement or any of that.
So it's technically energy.
It's energy. It's potential.
Once the neutral event is potential energy, but once it touches the form, then it's manifested in whatever action or movement.
Alessandra, you're saying the opposite of what I was just reading from the book, that what your interpretation is not accurate, because they're neutral events that fall in the matter, in the world of matter, and they stay in the form of unsaturated events. So they haven't taken action. They're, if I read again, the event does not manifest, at which point it is.
No, but Vesla, I said the neutral event that touched the form.
Yeah.
So those are the saturated ones.
Okay, you're talking about the saturated.
That's why, because Chris's question to me is it an action? And I'm like, everything that happens in the world of matter was before anything that happens that takes a movement that I'm making, picking up the phone. That's
those are saturated events.
Those are okay. Just to use your language, saturated. Those are saturated. So they're no longer neutral events.
The language here, so it's that's a particularly important piece.
Yeah.
Anyway,
so
because you as a form chose to pick up your phone, you used that energy ray.
Yes.
And then it became saturated.
Yes. And so it's no longer a neutral event, because now it's got a direction, a purpose. It's not neutral.
It's been manifested. It's been
Does that make sense?
Yes.
So it's saturated. Once it touches a form, it becomes saturated.
But I mean, to choose a word like event, that's pretty nebulous. I mean, it could be a rock concert. It could be a dog shaking its leg. I mean,
Well,
all of those will be events actually considered. It's like
those are all neutral. Those are all these neutral events that have caused all of those things, but they're no longer called neutral events. They're now called saturated and physical.
Because they manifested.
They manifested. And then now, Cindy, you wanted to ask something because your hand was up.
No.
Okay. So there's two important things also that Vesla said. All of these saturated events, all of these neutral events that got touched in the form, those are what creates the fabric of time. That gets imprinted on the fabric of time. So Vesla, now with the unsaturated ones, so Vesla is sharing with us what she discussed in the classes with Rautalo, is that these unsaturated events don't just sit there and they're not accessible anymore. It sounds like they are accessible in other ways, that you can bring them back and use them. So this is energy that is constantly in our environment that we can have access to. Vesla, that's what you understood?
This is, like I said, you're using a little bit freer language and more looser language. So I like to stick to the exact terminology that is used here. So basically, let's see how it says.
Unsaturated events. The unsaturated
events are, there's always a certain quantity of them on the material plane, because we cannot use them all, at once, or they're not all used up at once. So.
Okay. And we can use them. And the other thing that is important also, and this I think is true, my understanding from all the laws, that they are not uniform at the way that they distribute. They are more potent around the synchronic lines or these vortexes of energies.
Yeah, not more potent, there are more of them.
More of it, There's more of them. There's more higher quantities. So they're not diffused in a equal way. They are concentrated in different ways, and synchronic lines have more of them. Guys, have we lost you? Vesla, you're okay. You're okay with my definitions?
Yes, yes, yes. I am more of a stick to the book.
No, I've got to make it my words, otherwise I don't get it.
I like your words because it explains it differently to me. Because I don't.
No, that's why I like being in this group too. It's just to
It
not
gives
just
you
read
more
the same book words, but try to think about it in different language and different,
metaphors and explain
Yeah,
it in our own simple words.
I don't understand
So
them.
those saturated events
Yes.
have entered the world of time and therefore are part of cause and effect.
Yeah. Okay. You can play with that, but I'm gonna take that apart in no time.
That's good.
Wait till we get to synchronicity and cause and effect. It's gonna go right out the door.
Can you repeat the question? Was that Chris?
Yeah, that was me. I like trying to figure out how all these different concepts intersect. And so I was saying, if an event happens and you use the energy,
Yeah, the potential.
then it becomes part of time and therefore becomes part of cause and effect.
No, I don't know where you mix up all those things, but it's all part of time. It's first about time and space, and second about events don't define the. Well, I don't know. It's I don't think that's
Okay.
exactly.
Vesla, you have to be a little gentler because everybody arrives at making sense of concepts in their own language.
Well,
So
I'm just saying my interpretation. Sorry if it's not gentle enough. I'm just
no, because
there's a question. I'm saying no. I don't think that's the connection. That's exactly connected. But anyway.
No, but I understand why you would think that, and so Chris, just stay open because all of these questions, as we're just setting the stage for all these laws now. So you get familiar with them.
Okay.
Then you'll see them, and then we're going to start to interact with all of them as we go further in the topics. So stick with us. But yes, you can have this idea in your mind, but we're going to take it apart.
That's good. That's helpful.
Okay, synchronicity. Are you ready, guys? Come on, let's do a few more. Let's talk about the synchronicity. So cause and effect. Let's see, what is synchronicity? Oh, Cindy, did you want to talk about this?
No.
Okay.
That's the one of the best laws. Okay. My favorite one.
So synchronicity, page 36. So I'm just going to summarize my notes for you guys. Okay. So synchronicity is a force. Chris, this is for you. Cause and effect. Put it out there. Okay. Is a force that creates a constant link between all events. Not necessarily cause and effect, but there's a link. Not
right. We think of it as cause and effect because we're limited.
Right.
Yes, because we are looking at it from a very small, we're not looking at it from a bird's eye view. We're looking at it very close. So that's the only thing we can see. Yes, that's possible. That's why we see cause and effect. But this is an important law, you guys, because we realize in this perception of cause and effect how limited we have been at understanding the mechanics of the synchronicity that is happening, this law, and how it works. It's quite amazing. And I think it also makes us a little bit more aware of the actions we do take. It's very profound to understand this outside of cause and effect. So, like I said, it is, it's a force that's creating a constant link between all events, not by cause and effect, which can say that this happened and this follows, but a force that creates a constant link as if it was on the same timeline thread. Let us say that synchronicity is like a string to which all events are tied. So then, if an action moves one of these events, the repercussion will be felt throughout the cord, the synchronicity. and have an effect on all other events as well. And one of the examples is that they give is simultaneously, I'm holding a glass in my hand, and at the same time, a man in Italy is drinking a glass of wine. Because he drinks that glass of wine, my glass falls. Had he not drank that glass of wine, my glass would not have fallen. So it's not cause and effect, but it's because that event is attached somehow to mine and it pulls. So synchronicity is beyond cause and effect. It's
right.
Looking at all these things on a timeline, and correspondence and the principle of correspondence is going to come into play because it is something they use in magic when they want to do time travel and change an event. They don't go change the event. They go move a stone in a location because that stone movement will have an impact on the event they want to have an impact on. So did I give you the picture?
Yeah, that's clear.
That's good. So synchronicity, that's this law. Okay. So events are always synchronic and pursue a common goal, which we will identify in complexity when we get to it. And then
so the goal of synchronicity is increasing the complexity. Even if we don't we cannot necessarily see it, but the goal of synchronistic events is so whatever comes, and when we say something is synchronistic, from that spiritual physics perspective would mean the synchronistic occurrence will help support the increase in complexity or evolution, in other words.
Yes.
So those two are very closely connected.
Yeah, I think that's also page 37. Synchronicity is what is actually selecting the event that takes place at any point in space-time, overriding the principle of cause and effect. Yeah. And it is to increase complexity, and there's more of them, like the fall of neutral events around synchronic lines. The synchronicity law is more, there's more potential for it to make these to make these movements close to synchronic lines.
There is an interesting paragraph. I don't understand it exactly. I have a feeling, but it's on the last paragraph on page 38. It says, as stated previously, this principle of synchronicity is very important in magic, as it is one of the channels through which the magic of correspondence expresses itself in order to have an effect on forms without any physical action being executed upon them. So I guess I have a sense that when physical, forms are being changed without physical action, this is part of magic, and what's playing in this situation is like one of the law that is being applied or one of the synchronicity. Synchronicity, but it's really like how exactly this works. Wow.
Think of the word correspondence. It corresponds.
The magic of correspondence. Yeah.
Corresponds means that one thing is connected to another, and they move
on different levels or different planes.
Yes. And they correspond to each other. Yeah. They might not look like they're in one in front of the other. They might be in two different parts of the world, but if you pull one, you're going to affect the other.
Yeah. The law of correspondence is like they call it, the way they say it, it's as above, so below. So it's like things that are connected, even though they're on different levels.
This I don't know, Bella. This one, it's not in this dialogue that's in the word.
Yeah, that's something I've heard in many of the Damanhurian classes talking about the laws of magic, and one of them being as above, so below. Maybe they talk about it later in the book. I don't know, but
yeah.
Anyway,
So, but
it's related to.
Yeah. So synchronicity is important because it gets us to really realize that everything that we do has an impact beyond anything we can imagine.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah. Okay? Everything we do has impact on many other things, people, planets,
everything. So,
universe.
So walk with, act in the world with a lot of consciousness when you can.
Yeah.
Are you guys okay with all this? Is this good?
Yeah.
Yes.
It's 7:32. Should we do you want to keep going? I don't.
Listen, it's up to you guys. You had enough?
I don't
I
know.
think I have.
Okay. Okay, guys, then what I'll do is I'll send a few Q&As about the stuff. Just to
Can you make
review it.
sure you include Chris in the email list?
Yes, and
I sent you her email, and also I don't know why I didn't receive that Word document. I don't know if you have me like in your.
Yeah, because you got my first email, right? With all the emails. Did I not?
I did about the password and all of this too. So, but I don't know why I didn't.
Okay, so maybe I didn't attach it, guys. I'm sorry. Maybe
no
I didn't
problem.
attach. It was in. Okay, so let's stop here.
Yeah.
So the next time we continue from here, and Vesela, for those of you that want, the first 5-10 minutes I'm going to review. Okay, so if you want to come on the call a little later.
No, I was late anyway today, but to be on time. No, that's okay. I mean, like this is, I've read the book twice, and as we're talking about it, just I realized how difficult the material is and how important it is to just keep reading and keep reviewing, keep hearing from somebody else explaining it, maybe understanding it a little better. So no, that's all good. It's just there's parts that I'm really very excited about and parts that are not as much.
No, okay. So Vanessa, I'm gonna talk to you about that, because it's the complexity of it is because also the way it's been presented, it's very difficult. That's why
we've talked about this. I'm really excited to get to time, and then after the time, of course, to the ancient human history, which maybe it's
these are amazing concepts. There's so much to share.
So the part about the loss is one of the driest for me.
But it's the building block. Like, guys, I want to give you these.
So it's important to get to it. It's like I want to get to the really.
I know, but these are the building blocks so that those.
No, it is.
Once we have this, they can take us anywhere. We'll go anywhere with them.
Yeah.
And I'm trying to animate it.
Yes, very good. You're doing really well.
Cindy, are you okay over there? Are you okay?
Yeah.
Okay.
Elizabeth is texting me. I'm listening and texting with Elizabeth.
Okay, beautiful. Well, listen, I'm going to send them the recording. Chris, you see, it's not too complex. We were able to bring you along with us.
Yes.
Good.
She's read the book twice, so she's like.
She's good. And okay, so guys, in two weeks we do on Wednesday. So thing 7 to 9. I think we're good. I don't have the date in front of me, but good. I'll send out the recording so you all have it. I'll send you the questions and Q&As. I'll send you last week.
Great. Thank you very much, Alessandra.
That would be the 29th, right?
Yeah.
Yeah,
7 to 9.
Chris, I'm so glad you joined us. So it's really nice.
Yeah, I'll try and get my. I'll be using my laptop, so I think I'll have a face.
Okay, and I wanted to ask you guys, and this might not apply to you, Vesla or Chris, because you've done courses, but there is an online Atlantis course that Krautolo is going to do. We're going to do it via Zoom next Monday.
I didn't know about it. I'm totally interested. How did you find it?
Oh my God. Okay, I'll send you the link. It's $150. He's going to do 2 hours. And Cindy, you're going to see him this weekend, eh?
Yeah.
It's $150 for 2 hours?
It's 2 hours, Bella. And he's going to take me through a lot of, that's the price he's giving me.
2 expensive hours.
I know. Well, yeah, I think it's because he's going to be able to move through a lot more material because he doesn't, he'll have questions, but it's the same as in a class.
Okay.
So
I think I will pass it. I'm short on money right now, but I hope to share some of the stuff that you were. I mean, obviously Atlantis is...
Did you do Atlantis?
Huh? The human history, I've taken all 3 levels of the class.
No, then you don't need this. You've done it. You've done it. It's that he's commenting.
You can always learn something new, and like Krautolo knows so much, and he can only give so much within like a class. So, but 2 hours is really little. I was thinking maybe it's like 2 day another class, which is online. So anyway, I hope that you can share the stuff that you learned with us.
Yes, we will. Okay, so everybody's good? Was 29th Wednesday?
Yeah.
Yeah.
See you on Wednesday in a couple of weeks. Great.
Ciao ragazzi.
Yeah. Ciao, ciao.
Ciao, 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 ciao.
Bye.
Thank
Bye,
you.
guys. Bye,
Thank you.
Eva. Bye.
Bye. Hello.
Yeah, ciao, Eva.